I can see you guys, can't hear you yet.
Hey, good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Vincent. How are you?
Good.
Morning, Bill.
Morning, David. How are you? Pam, I can hear you, but I can't see you. I mean, I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Mute.
Now
There you,
better.
there we go. We got you, I think.
I think so.
Very sorry to hear about your sister. How's everything going?
Oh, shitty. She's still on ECMO. She's still intubated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I take it a day at a time.
That's the only way you can do it right now.
Yep.
Is she here on the East Coast, Pam?
No, I'm in San Francisco. She lives
Oh,
in
wow.
San Francisco. She
Oh my gosh.
collapsed on the 20th in cardiogenic shock and had
Wow.
a flapping mitral valve, in fluid acute pulmonary edema. They
Wow.
intubated her by the time she got to the ED, put in a balloon pump, switched her to CPMC, which is the heart center, that same day, took out the balloon pump, put her on ECMO, and been working on her heart ever since. She had two shitty valves, which my sister's big. She's 200 pounds. She thought it's because I'm fat and I smoke, which she barely does anymore. And she ignored the signs of CHF.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So we're moving. Who is that masked man?
Hey, how are you?
I'm okay.
You look like you're in one of those gaming chairs, just sitting back.
You know what it
playing
is?
some video games.
It's a what do you call them? Massage chair.
Oh my gosh! Well, don't fall asleep during the meeting.
I know. Well, I'm closest to the internet, so I was like, I'm gonna come down here, and everybody's still sleeping because it's only 6 by me, 6:30.
Oh, yes.
But it's
That's
okay.
very nice.
No worries. It's not on though.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, David. How are you?
Super
Hi, David.
fantastic. How's everybody this fine Monday morning?
Good so far.
That's good.
Not to brag or anything, but I had a case of mixed edema coma overnight last night. And I gotta say, that's gotta be my second or my third of my entire career. It was a very unusual diagnosis. He came in hypothermic, so we're thinking sepsis. And I get a blood gas and it shows a respiratory acidosis. I'm thinking COPD, but the patient doesn't have COPD. Check a TSH level, it's through the roof. Intubate him, admit him to the ICU, and I'm literally giving him IV steroids as well as thyroid hormone. So,
Wow, that's crazy. How often?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a wild one.
it's like a second or third time I've ever had that case.
Oh my goodness.
Hi, good morning, Dennis Mao. Can you hear me?
Hey, Dr. Mao.
Good morning, how are you? That's a crazy case.
Oh my goodness.
Good morning, guys. Rich Parrish.
Good morning.
Morning.
So we'll wait a few more minutes. Let's see how many we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I guess we can get started. We have a quorum. Good morning, everybody. What maybe we should do is, Karen, do you want to do a roll call? And that way you can know everybody who's here. You're muted, babe.
I'm not at work. I don't have the agenda. I don't have the thing. So Bill's going to have to do it.
Oh, Bill, go ahead.
I have it right in front of me, ready to go. Garnet Health Medical Center, Dr. Meek.
May, and he's on the
May.
phone. Right.
Okay. Okay. Putnam is Dr. DeThomas. Now, she did send a note saying she would not be able to make it.
It's May, I am here.
I got you. Okay. Dr. Brutus? Dr. Papish? I have to let him in, so he'll be here in a minute. Dr. Cohen? Dr. Santos? Dr. Ashard?
Bill.
Dr. Kukuza? Dr. Larson?
I'm here.
Dr. Quintero?
I'm here. Were you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes. That's Dr. Papish, I got you. Dr. Murphy. Dr. Stumiller.
I'm here, Bill.
Okay. Dr. McGinley. Dr. Mao.
Yep, present.
Okay. Dr. Chung.
Present.
Dr. Midori.
I'm here.
Dr. Templeton. Dr. Raybridge. Okay, we're good. Did I miss anybody?
Myself here, I'm Dr. Decosod and mobile medic director.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. DeCassard, you also represent Catskill too, right?
Correct.
So he can represent Catskill as McGinley, Bill.
Okay,
Okay, so there's a quorum, right, Bill? I
Yes.
counted them. Okay,
yes,
so let's go ahead and go on. Thank you,
Bill?
yes.
Bill, did you let Sal in the meeting?
I have twice.
He's on the screen.
Okay, okay.
So thank you, everybody. If you could all mute your phones except for everyone or the person who's talking or who needs to speak, we will bring the meeting to order at this time. In review of the minutes from September 14th, does anyone have any corrections, deletions, additions, or anything they want to add or comment on? Or could I ask for a motion to accept? Okay, a motion to accept,
Motion to
please.
accept.
Thank you. And a second?
I'd like to second that.
Thank you, guys. So meeting minutes are accepted.
Who made the first motion? I'm sorry, Pam.
Dennis.
Okay, thank you, Dennis.
No worries. So going on to old business, the iGel project is right now kind of in the backlog of CMAC, but we have a meeting coming up and hopefully we're going to be able to rejuvenate it. As you know, we had pushed it through for pilot project approval and then COVID hit. So everything went on hold. And this CMAC meeting has been delayed. So that's why we haven't heard anything back. In addition, the TXA administration pilot project, in addition, both things we will get back up and going. But for right now, I have no update on either of those at this point, but will on the next meeting. They could not get a date that was good for everybody for CMAC, so it got pushed off after this meeting. Also under old business, the ambulance upgrade. Bill, do you want to speak to that or do you want Mark to speak to that?
Either way. Want me to do it, Mark, or you?
Yeah, you can. Doesn't matter.
Okay. Actually, what happened with the ambulance, they submitted an application for ALS upgrade that came to us. And the Bureau of EMS has actually stepped into that and said that our process was much too convoluted and it should be done by them. And they sent us out a 3-page letter, and basically all the paperwork went to them, and ambulance went to them for the approval. They did approve it. As I understand right now, they have their narcotics license to operate in our area. They have 1 paramedic on board, and they're getting set up, and they expect to go into service shortly. I don't know. That was an existing CON. They had an existing CON. It was just an upgrade to an ALS. So they are on their way and approved by the Bureau.
Bill, that
And,
wasn't as much convoluted as strict, right?
well, yeah, it was strict. It was a lot more requirements than any of the other regions had. And, you know, we actually developed it that way because of some of the issues that we had with some of the agencies that did move up to an ALS and were not successful and had to back down to BLS. So we've had several agencies in our area that did that, and we required some financial information, and we required a process where people could discuss it and voice their opinion. And the Bureau felt that that was a much more restrictive process than anybody else was using.
Here's a question.
Go ahead.
Well, so this is all sort of a done deal with the ambulance. But going forward, what are we going to, I mean, do we need to modify our process? Or, I mean, I know it seems like in this case, there was an existing CON, and so it was it was sort of an easier process to upgrade. Whereas the process for what historically seems like it was more difficult endeavor was when agencies were seeking an upgrade that didn't have an existing CON. And is our process going to stay the same for those, or?
I'm not sure. Back when this first started, the deputy director of the Bureau was supposed to send us information. What they suggested that we would remove our or modify our process, but we have not received that from them or any direction from them. As I understand it, the Bureau is supposed to have a full policy coming out on ALS upgrades, but we have not seen a draft of it or have anything from it. So I don't know if the process is going to move from us to them. I know that there are some people that were very concerned about that happening and, you know, restricting some of the powers of the REMAC, and I'm not sure where that is right now. I'm sure it will be a very popular topic at the next CMAC meeting.
I guess we won't do anything until we find out what's going on.
Unfortunately, we don't have anybody at this point looking for an upgrade, so we're okay. That would be pushed if we do have somebody that comes in looking for an upgrade.
Sorry, guys, of course I get a call right in the middle. So, you know, this process predated all of us. I don't think there's a single person here that would have been here when this was done. It was done in a fashion, like Bill said, to make sure that everyone in the area was aware of what was going on. We weren't diluting the system. We were making sure that they were going to be a viable asset in addition to our regional response. And so I think what Dr. Papish brought up initially was the difference with this one was that they had a CON. And so they shouldn't have had to go through the whole elaborate process. However, I think that the process has helped us up until now, but we can take a look at it. The state, as Bill alluded to, is supposed to send us things to guide us on what they feel is really what is needed, and the only thing that is needed to advance through this, you know, transition from BLS to ALS. But it really is our decision in the long run. So we will have more on that. We'll reconvene. And Bill, what we could do, if we could send out a letter to the state again, to the two gentlemen that were on the call with us, that we're still waiting for their recommendations of how they want us to go forward with the process. And then we can take a look at it, but it's absolutely our decision how we want to do it.
Okay.
Does that make sense, everybody? Anybody have any comments? Okay, I will move on. Next is evaluation subcommittee report, Dr. Ashad.
Hey guys, I think we have, since our last REMAC meeting, received one case for review. We're still working on gathering the full details of that case. So just will not be presenting it at this meeting.
Okay, we'll wait for the next meeting. Thank you. New York State DOH enforcement notifications. Karen, I don't have any since we're not together with a folder. I don't know if there was any for this meeting.
I sent them to you.
Oh, you did? All right, let me.
I have a copy of them,
Bill
Pam.
has them.
Okay. Do you want to just read them into the minutes, Bill?
Yes. The first one is Bedford Stuyvesant Volunteer Ambulance Corps in Brooklyn, agency code 7143 for violations of Public Health Law Article 30, 3006, 3053, 3012, 3012F, and Part 800. There's multiple bunches of Part 800 that were in violation. They were suspended for 1 year effective 9/14/20, and the suspension is stayed, and placed on probation for 2 years effective 9/14/20, and assessed a civil penalty of $2,000. The next is Bensonhurst Volunteer Ambulance Service was suspended for 1 year effective 9/23. The suspension is stayed, placed on probation for 2 years for until 9/23, and a civil penalty of $2,000 was assessed. Must hire a consultant and provide regular reports for the department. They were in violation of part of Public Health Law 3006 and Part 800.21 and 800.23. The next one was Eva Santiago. She was suspended for 6 months, effective 9/14/20, assessed a civil penalty of $2,000. The civil penalty is suspended and ultimately forgiven if no further violations for 3 years, beginning on 9/14, in violation of Part 800-16A-13. So, she is an EMT that was suspended. The next one was Diane Wingrit, placed on 3 years probation, effective 10/6/20, assessed a civil penalty of $2,000 for violation of Part 800.15, Section B. She is also an EMT, I believe. The next one is Nicholas Walker, suspended for 1 year, effective 9/23. The suspension is stayed pending completion of a full PALS and ACLS course within 6 months. Placed on 3 years probation, effective 9/23, and assessed a civil penalty of $5,000. A violation of Part 800-15 and Part 800.3. And that is out of Plattsburgh. That's all that I have.
Great, thank you. That seems more than we normally have.
Yeah, there has been 4 or 5 at the last couple of meetings. Yes, it
Yeah.
seems that there have been some issues, I guess.
Okay, that was interesting. I think that's the most we've had in a while. Okay, thank you very much, Bill. So next on the agenda is Helicopter Committee, Dr. Larson and Dr. Stumiller.
Good morning. The committee met this morning, and our big contribution to the region will be the revised aeromedical utilization guidelines. We made a significant modification, and we will present them at the next meeting. for your approval. Our goal will be to have them done before the next meeting so that we can send them out, but then we can also present our committee's approved utilization guidelines at the next meeting, which will be Monday, January 4th. There was discussion in our committee of how the air ambulances are responding to COVID and other infectious diseases. And so I think I just asked Steve Scully from Air Methods just to discuss. He has more of the knowledge of the statistics of our transports and the fact that none of our providers, despite transporting COVID patients, have contracted the virus from work. And in fact, nationally, across the country, Air Methods has over 3,000 patients transported, and no teammates have contracted the virus at work. They've actually contracted it like outside of work through their spouses or other gatherings in their communities. So we're happy that we can safely treat COVID patients. But Steve has some more data that he'd share. So I'll ask Steve to talk.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Steve Scully with Air Methods and LifeNet New York. As Dr. Stu Miller referenced, we've had no patient to provider or provider to patient transmission of coronavirus, despite transporting approximately 3,000 COVID positive or PUI patients. That's including our mass evacuation at Jacobi Medical Center in Manhattan back in April, in which we evacuated over 49 patients in the span of 5 business days. All of our providers are wearing full N95 PPE and eye protection on all COVID positive or PUI patients. And additionally, during their shift time, when they're unable to maintain a social distance of 6 feet within our bases and facilities during the course of their work, they are wearing at minimum surgical masks in order to protect each other, which, as you can imagine, is not ideal for 24-hour shifts, but we've seen great cooperation there and great results. Additionally, we introduced a Metasol spray to all of our aircraft in the LifeNet New York program. It's essentially a time release cleansing agent that's applied to all the surfaces within the patient compartment in the aircraft. And that complements our decon process that's activated after every single PUI or COVID positive interaction. Bit of a lengthy process, but definitely a good investment for both the crew and the provider and patient safety overall.
Fantastic. Those are pretty good statistics, I'll say that. Thank you, guys. Moving on, RTAC report.
One more thing.
Oh, Dr. Larson, go ahead, because you're RTAC too.
From the helicopter committee, just a request. One of the things that is going to come out as part of the helicopter updated policy is a list of all the hospitals and information about them in terms of, their capabilities. People have probably seen this, whether they're trauma, burn, PICU, NICU, OB, those kinds of things. Also, whether they have a helipad. So, we've put out a request from the helicopter committee for the hospitals of the Hudson Valley to update this list, because some of them have new facilities, some have dropped some of their capabilities, and we want to put in an updated chart for folks and providers. So if you could reach out to your emergency preparedness people or whoever is taking responsibility to send in an update from your personal hospital as to what your capabilities are. So this is important. We're also going to, and Rich Parrish, since you're on the line there, I'm also going to bring this over to the MACE team, because they have a great deal of responsible people. And so we'll probably also, if they could help us update these charts, this chart, so that we can put it in the, this final update of the helicopter protocols. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Just send me a copy of the protocols.
Send it to you and to Ed Tancredi, and we can farm it out to the rest of the MACE team to get their input, so we can get an update. just so that we know what's available out there and the people in the field know what's available out there and where to appropriately dispatch helicopters and or even ground ambulances based on this chart too.
Yeah, we have a meeting Friday, so if we can get it before then, I can make sure we bring it up.
Very good.
And anything on RTAC, Eric, did they have a meeting?
Yeah, I have not seen any schedule. Dr. Quintero, if you're on the line, I think you are, you haven't heard from them, have you? I have not heard anything. Trauma is really not a problem anymore. It's not.
Yeah, I have not heard anything either.
But I have not, I have not heard from them. Maybe, Frank and I might reach out to them and see where they're going and whether the RTAC's going to meet again or, what the plan is. I just haven't heard much.
I was kind of wondering, just because, there's that trial project of TXA via Orange Regional with Mobile Life, right? If the RTAC is involved in that at all. Because I was just wondering, like, if that trial came out sort of demonstrating that they should be doing it, and once they start, is then the RTAC gonna, come back and say, wait, what's going on with TXA? We don't want to use it, blah, blah, blah. And maybe it's something they should know about.
Right. There were certainly some strong opinions on RTAC about, about using it. And so, yeah, I don't know. That's definitely interesting. Well, yeah. Frank or I will reach out to them, see if they're planning on meeting again. What's the status of the committee? And we'll see.
And I'll make sure that gets communicated over once this process goes along. It was, it's really been, unfortunately, so many things have been put to the wayside, but we'll get it back up and into the right hands of everybody to take a peek at, and look at the whole process behind it. I think that the trauma people at ORMC are aware. Most of them sit on RTAC, but I'll follow through on that, Mark, just to follow back up with it. Okay, thank you, guys. Quality improvement report. Is Jeff on or?
No, actually, Jeff had surgery on Friday for his knee, so he's going to be out for a couple of weeks rehabbing. So I do happen to have the adjunct report on QAQI, which I don't know if we want to do them one at a time and vote on them or just vote on all three of them. There's only three. It's not as long as the other list. So we do them all together?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. First one is Poughkeepsie Public Library. They have a PAD application that's been submitted. Phillipstown VAC wants to include glucometry in their adjuncts, and Glassglow is going to include Narcan in theirs. Those are the three agencies that want to upgrade. So if we can just get a verbal vote.
Yeah, it's really just a notification through us because they're approved. It's really more so it's a pass through us. We don't really have to vote on that. Yeah, we do. It has to be approved by the REMAC. The use of the adjuncts is what the policy says that we're supposed to do. Okay. So all those in favor of allowing those three organizations to have adjunct materials, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mark Papish is in. Ashlad. Good. Midori's in.
Dennis.
Great, Dennis. Thank you.
May's in.
Evan Cohen's in. May's in.
Okay.
And who else? I think that was it. Okay, it's approved.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Now, on the other side of it, we do have a little bit more work that Jeff has been doing on the dashboard. And David Grass is gonna show you that and give you a little insight to some of the information that he has available on the dashboard. You good, David?
Once you share your screen, you can't unmute yourself. I have to go back to the share screen. All right, so just a couple of things that Jeff put in his notes here. Again, I'm reading from Jeff's report. Chest pain in New York State KPI, although not much has been happening with the selected KPI categories, this is presumed due to COVID. The national EMS standards using the following criteria for chest pain metrics. They use 12 leads obtained less than 10 minutes after the initial patient contact, aspirin and nitro administrations, IV therapy, O2 administration, and maintaining SpO2 at 94 to 98%. Additionally, they've identified the following documentation standards. Time of onset, 12 lead, aspirin administration, and time of stemming notification. Chart reviews have seen the aspirin administration by the BLS providers for chest pain. The documentation has been lacking for one reason or another, why aspirin was not administered, whether it was allergies, time taken prior to arrival, or et cetera. As far as the opportunities for improvement, he notes that 12 lead times need to improve. BLS agencies should be more proactive with aspirin administration, and documentation needs to be more inclusive regarding why these deviations are from the protocols. As reference to the Narcan use and administration, with the exception of a drop in August 2019, opioid-related calls remain at a relatively constant number with no specific increases during the height of the pandemic. Bear in mind the calls charted do not include all of the numbers from law enforcement or the layperson administrations. As far as the call volume, I'm just trying to get this up so you can see everything here. Broken out by the county in 3-hour intervals, bar graphs show a quick view. The volume graphs show the breakdown by day. The balance of the data contained provide a good picture of what occurred during the height of the pandemic, and similar numbers have been seen with resurgence of COVID coupled with a bad influence. So again, the only one I don't think you could see were the bottom charts here, so I'll just flip them up quick. So you can just see as far as the Narcan use that was being used through there. Other than that, that appears to be Jeff's report.
Dave, is there a plan to share those charts with members?
Again, I won't speak for Jeff. He didn't allude to that, but from what I understand in conversations with both him and Bill, that this is something that'll be shared each month. He'll pick out an area and a topic to be able to share with. And then when it goes to the regional council for dissemination through the agencies and then back into the counties, this is what he's again trying to push of what are the things that the region has the availability to be able to produce and provide to providers. And again, the big thing that everybody should keep in mind with this dashboard is it can be manipulated so that any data you want to see that's coming through, because again, as we move forward through the next 12 months, every single agency, including BLS first response agencies that haven't been putting their data in, will now be required to put their data in electronically, and it's going to make getting this information quicker and more cohesive to getting it back to the providers to see what it is almost in real time. So yes, long answer.
One of the things that we're looking for is for the REMSCO to create a tag about the data and how they want to see the data, and you know, if you guys want to see the data in a specific manner, or what data you do want to see. You know, there's plenty of it available. It takes a little bit of time to work some of it, but once it gets worked, it's available quite readily, and we can change a lot of the parameters. So it's a matter of, we want to share it, but we don't know what you guys want to see yet. So if you find something that really interests you, you find some statistics that you want to look at. We found the aspirin to be very interesting, that BLS is not using aspirin when they should be, and they should be out there. We should be promoting that, and maybe we should be looking at some of that along our BLS CMEs and things of that nature. The other thing that we see is the 12 lead time. Those were two that when we picked up on the cardiac, that 50% of the time we're not doing it in the recommended time. We're not getting that 12 lead. So those are things that we can see for improvement. I mean, there's no chastising on any of it. It's just a matter of showing you what's out there so that we can look at how we can improve our system in general.
Yeah, I concur. It's got good information, and my thoughts would be to take that and use it during my CMEs. Yeah, hey guys, here's some data that we've been looking at, and let them know that we have a question about BLS and aspirin and 12 lead, things like that. I can see incorporating that into the kickoff of my CMEs.
I think it's really important, especially those two little aspects you just mentioned this morning, aspirin and EKG. I mean, some of those EKGs were 30 minutes out. It's hard to read those statistics just from the format on our screen right here. So it would be better to really sit there and examine it and look at it closer. But 30 minutes to get an EKG on a person with chest pain, that's a long time. So I think these are really vital statistics we should be looking at, and that we should be discussing and disseminating downward, to every single one of our cores. And if it becomes an issue of that we see it's a specific area, a specific core, a specific, maybe even down to an individual, I think these are really important statistics to look at.
I think it's something we could also incorporate into maybe the regional training program. If we see areas on a quarterly basis, we can address them, looking from the dashboard into maybe something we present even from docs.
Yeah, I mean, one of our criteria that we have to be, a STEMI center is you have to have those EKGs done, and you have to meet all the criteria under, a specific timeline. So, an EKG to 30 minutes, that's pretty long. So that's a tough one.
So Bill, I think that a REMSCO tag is probably a good idea to look at this, and then certainly also pushing this information out to the county EMS coordinators so that they can disseminate the information down to the agency level as well.
Agreed.
Is there a way to display this on the website, just to have, or in some, protected format for quality and performance improvement, where anyone can go and look and see the data, but not necessarily download it, unless you take a screenshot of the.
Yeah, and you'll notice that most of that is regional wide data. We haven't really put out a lot of individual agency data because we don't feel that that's our position to do that at an agency, unless an agency comes to us and wants to look at what their data is. So we always look at it at either a county-wide or a region-wide data. So, and that's what we're showing, and we have no problem putting that out there. We don't want to get down to the individual agency data or provided data. I mean, we can get to there with the agency if they need that. We can do that. But we don't want to publicize that. That's not our information to publicize. We'll help anybody work to those goals, though.
But we should ask them, is this indeed real accurate data that it is taking them 30 minutes to get an EKG? These are things we should be passing along to them. It can come from the office. It doesn't have to be publicized in that fashion, but we have to act upon this data because QA and QI, all this stuff is only as good as you utilize it. Right.
And the 30 minutes, I'm not sure how many there were at that level. That might be something that happened en route to the hospital. It might have happened on a transport where the chest pain didn't occur. That it wasn't a chest pain call. It was chest pain that occurred en route to an interfacility or something like that. So we're not. I don't know where that data came from. I know Jeff has looked at all of that. It is all the data came from all the PCRs that we have. So It is valid. There was at least calls with that. I just don't know what the individual detail is with the individual calls.
And the other is on, I think we should stress to all pre-hospital folks is actually the importance of the aspirin administration. It seems sort of like this, oh, I just got to do this. We got to make but it really, in terms of looking at the data and the studies out there in terms of long-term outcome, short-term outcome, all that stuff, the earlier you get the aspirin on board, since this is what we're all talking about, is compressing this process. The sooner you get the aspirin on board, the better long-term outcome for these folks. And so it's not just I got to do this because it's part of a protocol. It actually makes a difference in people's lives. At least that's what the data is showing us now. So if there's any clear data, it's been done on the aspirin work, and we should just emphasize that to folks, that you're really doing something for someone, not just popping a pill in the mouth because you got it on a protocol.
Agreed, totally.
Probably one of our opportunities also is consistency in data entry. As we look at this data and then try to identify what that data is telling us, different providers possibly are entering data in different ways. And so as we go out and educate them about the advantages and uses of things like aspirin, we also have to talk to them about how it should be entered so that the data entry is consistent.
And make sure it's accurate, that it isn't something that, like Bill said, maybe the call changed and that in a transport, the person all of a sudden got chest pain, so we just need to make sure it's accurate too. And they understand how to enter it.
In those situations, it usually comes up in the descriptive part of the PCR,
Yeah.
when the call has switched over to a different type of call and stuff like that. So that does require a little bit more. We are looking at a way of being able to parse through the written scenarios of the PCRs to see if we can pick up information from there.
Okay, excellent. So
One last
go ahead.
comment, Pam, if I may. If you're looking for data to collect, 5 or so years ago, there was the National EMS Compass project, which was a NHTSA grant that I think NEMSP and the SEMSO picked up to create the first metrics for EMS to submit into kind of, well, not to submit because there was never a national collection and benchmarking, but it was a suggested metrics for EMS services to start looking at their own quality. And that's been reborn as the National EMS Quality Alliance, or NEMSQA. And it's been picked up by some of the professional societies to continue funding it, and therefore continued and got rebranded. But they have created consensus quality metrics to collect. And so that would be a place to look if you wanted to not only maybe collect some data to contribute to a national conversation.
Good point.
I also believe New York State is coming up with some KPI indicators for agencies so that they can improve themselves over a period of time. And I believe that I'm not exactly sure when COVID affected it, but it was supposed to come out at the end of this year, but it might be delayed a little bit more because of COVID. And I'm not sure if they're still working on them, but they were using the Virginia state standards that for their KPI in New York.
Yeah, that was something that that I was a part of working on at the state council, and it just blew apart up in the March-April timeframe, and we haven't worked on it. I think we're starting to get some traction back into it to finish it out, but we should have that hopefully, if not by December's meeting, by the ones at the beginning of the year.
Good.
What committee was that through, David?
That was EMS Standards Committee that Ryan called and put together, and there were some folks from around the state working on that, trying to put together, just a standard to look at for everybody. It was part of even having gold standards, silver standards, bronze standards that every agency could sort of look at and try and attain.
All right, thanks. Moving along, protocol committee. Mike.
So I missed the last collaborative protocol meeting, so I will defer my time to Bill and David if you guys want to make a report on that. If there's nothing to report, we can move along.
I think Pam covered the stuff we were talking about in terms of the supraglottic airways and the TXA. I will say it was great to listen to the discussion from input of providers all around the state of how to improve the collaborative protocols. And there are some really good ideas and thoughts out there by providers to improve the protocols and different components of it. And some really good discussion by the docs on the line about, you know, the efficacy of any of the things and how we could do some of this stuff. In there were the supraglottic and the TXA components. They also had some other items that they were working on, like, for example, isopropyl alcohol for nausea by BLS providers. And so that was just one thing that was put out there that they're going to talk about at the next state meetings. But the process was great, a lot of great discussions. I don't know if Pam, you wanted to add anything else about that. You were on there too.
Yeah, Dr. Cushman held a conference call that we all called into. And what he did was streamline through, he has a part of the website that he gathers all the input from anyone, from whether you want to talk about modifying a procedure of how we improve the policies, how we move through the protocols, or even adding new thoughts to the protocol. So he went through each one of the entries and, you know, gave people time to talk about it. And what they, you know, should take away from it is these are the things brought forward, and maybe we should move some of them more toward looking at them closer to add to the protocols, and to some of them people even wrote up a mini protocol to provide. So Cushman's gathering and organizing all that information to bring forward, and we'll talk about it at the next collaborative meeting. But what he wanted to do was introduce all the topics to everybody to review. Yeah, and I thought that isopropyl alcohol thing was pretty wild. I'd never heard of that. And also at that same forum, we look at, are there ways we can share the information better, discuss the information better, and ways to just facilitate the processes of when we change a protocol and bring forward a new one.
One of the things that's really important with that is that anybody can make the suggestion. You don't have to be a member of the protocol, the collaborative protocol committee or anything. And you can just go in, and if you feel that it's a valid point, you can make your point. And then it will be discussed. And sometimes they're passed, sometimes they're not. But they do want that that gathering of all that information and suggestions for where we can move in the future.
It was hard before because people didn't know what forum to put it in. So that's why this ability to, you know, send in the information via an email works out very well. So everything's brought to one depot, as you'd want to say, because before stuff would be sent to Cushman, stuff would be sent to Dr. Daly, stuff would be sent to me. So this way it all goes to one forum. And I think from what I described, and correct me if I'm wrong, David, Cushman is going to be the one to tally that, take charge of it, and always look after it and make sure he disseminates all the information.
Yep, that's right. And if anybody has any interest in doing any of the items or looking into any of the items, like the isopropyl alcohol, you somehow then become the chairperson of that particular committee. Looking into that item to bring back information to the rest of the group. But yeah, he's looking through that. Yep.
Great. So I'm just responding on a chat, sorry. Next on the agenda is new business. Anyone have any new business to bring forward or want to bring up at this time?
Dr. Murphy, if I may.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if this would go to the REMAC or whether this would go to the protocol committee, but REMAC was kind enough back in March to suspend all CME requirements for the providers in the Hudson Valley while COVID was going on. What we need to address is that was, I believe, written in until December 31st. I'm not sure that you guys are going to meet again before that will expire. And I wanted to see, do we have a game plan of how we're going to handle the providers that were missing hours, how we're going to handle it moving forward. I have providers that are starting to ask questions. You know, what are they going to be responsible for? How many hours? How long? Obviously, they have 4 years now. We knew we were going to add no more requirements, but we'll need some guidance on that. So I don't know who you want to default that to. Sorry, Michael.
So, Michael, I think that goes back to protocol committee because that's where we made the motion for the suspension of the CME through December 31st. Now, I know we didn't have a protocol committee this past month, but maybe we should convene in November so we discuss that and bring forward the recommendations. And we can, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong again, I think what we had said, we were going to give people a grace period to get their stuff done, if that's correct.
Yeah, so we will have to address it and just come up with a plan. And I'm sure we can do that with the training committee chair. So yeah, we'll put that on the agenda then for November and we'll address it. We'll get something out.
And just for clarity's sake, it would be medical control hours, not necessarily CME. The CME program is through the state. The med control hours is through the region.
Thanks for that clarification. You're exactly correct.
Correct. Thank you.
Anything else under new business? All that being said, CMAC report, there isn't one. We didn't have CMAC yet. We pushed it off because we couldn't come up with a date. So I will report out next time in January. And if anybody has anything else or any other concerns, otherwise I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis. And a second?
Sorry, this is Anthony. I'm a little late. I don't know if you've covered the committee of the the leadership, the directive thing committee that it's got so many definitions, and I guess that's the issue with that. The last REMAC there was a call put out for more volunteers, and I haven't really received any responses for it. I also I lost Sharon, so there's going to be a hole in there. From a management perspective, that committee, I think the scope of that committee is so large, and the people that are working on it are so small that I believe that we have to probably recalibrate and see what we can do with the army that we have. So I'm gonna look to see if on convening another committee meeting through Zoom and have that discussion. But I also wanted to make sure I set the expectations appropriately with the REMAC on the situation of that committee.
Okay. Does everybody know the committee he's talking about, or do you want Anthony to elaborate a little bit more? So I guess, Anthony, it's okay, then send out a notice and see if more people come forward. Mark, did you want to say something?
No, I was just going to say, do you want to elaborate exactly? Because a lot of people weren't at the last meeting.
Sure. So it's it's basically a committee that was formed after the EMS summit, and it was it talked about how to address different issues that are happening throughout the EMS community. It was we never officially actually settled on an official name for it, but we did call it something. DELAT. I'm trying to look up. I'm very horrible at acronyms. I'm also I'm on call, so that's why I was late too. So I'm a little discombobulated. But we had split up the those solutions, those problems and solutions that were identified at the EMS summit into 4 big categories because we felt it would be more manageable that way. And one of them was recruitment and retention, which Sharon gave the presentation last time. The other one was response times, which that committee seems to have a problem, I guess, getting traction. And then there was the public education piece, and then a finance piece as well. So the finance piece, they did come up with a draft spreadsheet, but it's only a subcommittee of 2. So they're looking for help as well on that. And the public education part, that includes education of the elected officials, communities, stuff like that. And there's quite a bit of references on that point as well, but it needs to be collected and consolidated so that it's digestible. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. The other thing is that I guess these problems have lasted for so long, and I don't mean like decades, but perhaps years, that the folks that have been dealing with it while they they could say, well, why don't you try this, why don't you try that, and try this and stuff, and kind of like, we're getting into a scenario where the people that suggest it end up being the people that have to lead it, right? And we're all kind of tapped out on time, right? So that kind of becomes a disincentive. And B, the folks that are in it sometimes may not have the perspective of the folks that are not in it that may have some outside solutions that we don't have. So at some point, I was contemplating whether or not to put forth to the committee maybe the idea of getting a consultant or something, or trying to figure out what else has been going on in other places. I know NEMSCO was mentioned on a different topic, and I've been trying to look through NEMSCO to see what they're up to. And they have some things may or may not be applicable to this area, but so the research is still ongoing. It's just going at a very slow pace, and because it's between the available time of folks that usually are busy. So I as much as I would like to produce results in a quicker pace, we're kind of limited to what we do have.
Okay, thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, it sounds like the leadership has the same problems as the volunteer body in general. There's not enough resources.
Yeah, I keep calling it the army of the willing.
Anthony, this has sort of been a tough task, and this was an amazingly difficult time to try and maneuver some of these things, especially with the landscape of EMS changing as it is in the last year and a half. So hang in there. I think your message is out to a lot of people, and let's see what we can do to help out from maybe this committee and from the REMSCO as well, and we can have some of those discussions in our other committees as well to see how we can help to move this forward.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. So moving along, open forum. Does anyone have anything they want to add? Anything else, or we will adjourn? So,
Give us,
Dr.
date,
go ahead.
give us the next date for Hudson Valley REMAC. which I believe is January 4th,
Yes,
21.
January 4th, 2021 already. Yes, that is the next meeting. Anything else, anybody? Okay, Dennis had made a motion to adjourn. Can I have a second?
Second, May.
Thanks, Matt. All right, everybody, thank you for taking your time out this morning. I appreciate it, and have a safe day.
Thank you.